Now, when it comes to innovation, what can you do with a hamburger? Well, we're about to find out, because Paul Pomroy from McDonald's is going to join Ian Marsh from HelloFresh. Both come up, please. Good to see you. Hi, Ian. Now, I think most people, once again, have heard of McDonald's. But, Ian, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, HelloFresh?
Sure. So we're a new player in the online grocery space, and I think we've very much turned the business on its head. So we are the pioneer in what's called recipe boxes. So effectively, you subscribe online, you say the number of people in your household you want to cook for, frequency of meals you want to cook a week, your taste preferences, healthy, quick, etc. And we ship you a box of food with all the ingredients, including all the spices and all the little condiments, to cook those recipes. I think the way it's turned the model on its head is effectively you introduce people to new meals, you open up cooking to a vast range of people that wouldn't be able to cook previously. Also, in thinking about the traditional grocery model, we have almost zero waste because we only order what people actually know they want to eat and only the right quantities for that recipe. And we have increased speed from farm to fork because we order, get it in, ship it fresh. So it's a new and innovative take. Fair few people have tried it, but it's obviously not as well known as McDonald's yet.
What is the essential insight there? Is it that people want to cook for themselves because they've been watching MasterChef, or what's changed in consumer behaviour, do you think?
I think there's definitely a lot of things, but for me there's two that are most salient. So first of all, there's a lot of people out there that want to cook. There's definitely a trend in home cooking, but a lot of people lack the skills. So I would include myself in that. Grow up, busy life, busy young professional life, and you get to a point where you like cooking, but you're almost paralysed. And especially if you go into local grocery stores in London, you can't buy half the ingredients. And you'll see those people wander around with their phones on whatever recipe site, kind of a bit clueless. So I think that we've managed to democratise cooking in that way because effectively you get everything, you get a recipe card, and you can start cooking. And I think that's the most important thing. Generally.
And you've been around since, 5 years? Just give us a sense of the size and scope of the business.
Yeah, so 4 years. So when we first started, it was in our head chef's living room with a couple of bags and groceries from the local shop and a few home-printed cookery cards. We have scaled dramatically since then, so we are now over 300 people. I think we're now in 8 countries. We ship over 7 million meals a month.
8 countries, that's interesting. What's the international experience like? I just wonder, does this work in France?
No, we tried France. We tried France early on, we withdrew, may go back there. No, I think you've got to think about what criteria you want. So we want a place with customers that would like to eat healthily but don't have necessarily as ingrained colouring traditions as, say, the Mediterranean countries. High online sort of propensity to purchase and relatively decent disposable income. So if you think of those kind of countries that we have the US, Germany, Netherlands, Australia, UK as our primary footprint. And we recently launched Canada, Switzerland, and Austria.
Okay, so all the countries that aren't very good at cooking.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be a while before we get to places like Italy.
Paul, the Big Mac, has that changed in 60 years? What's the innovation in a burger? If I could walk into one of your restaurants and the actual fundamental experience hasn't changed since the 1950s.
I think it's a perception people have, which is obviously wrong. The Big Mac itself, the core ingredients have changed a lot. Certainly in the UK, we've evolved what goes into our food. So over the last 10 years, we've reduced salts and sugars by 50% and 30% from across the range. I think what's definitely changed is that we now serve 3.7 million customers a day in the UK. 90% of the population enjoy our restaurants. And with that comes...
What are the other 10% doing there?
I'm not sure, actually. We're still working on those. It's a bit like we're working on France here. But for me, we've got to have a menu that appeals to 90% of the population. But also, customers now want to know what's in their food and the provenance of their food. And Ian and I were talking before we came on stage about supply chain is so critical. Us busting those myths. At the moment, we're on television talking about what goes into Big Macs, into our beef, 100% British and Irish beef, what goes into our nuggets. So customers are more discerning. They want to trust brands that they eat from. But on top of that, we need to watch, when you're talking about disruption, customers' tastes are changing. The likes of HelloFresh, I'm a customer myself, are changing expectations for customers. The new players in our market, like Five Guys and GBK, are changing customers' tastes. And it's my job to make sure we can play in that market, and we've launched a signature range of burgers that plays to that.
But when it comes to disruption and change, I'm really interested in something like McDonald's because, Coca-Cola tried it when they tried to change their formula. If you alienate your existing customer base, that's a disaster. So how do you weigh up those two things? You say you got 30% less fat or sugar. So did anyone ask for that? Maybe I like a big full fat burger and I don't want, What's the point? As part of a balanced diet, it's perfectly fine. How do you weigh that up?
It's a great point. So for us, you look at changing expectations and changing taste profiles, and you can't do anything that's dramatic. So it takes time to reformulate your core food, but also it takes time to bring the right new innovation to market. And if you look at the moment, we're halfway through a £600 million investment with our franchisees to transform the look and feel of our restaurant estate. Who would have said a year ago that you could come into McDonald's and use a giant iPad or kiosk to order your food, take a seat, and get table service? So there's things that you can disrupt. Giving people information on kiosks has been really important, so people understanding what's in their food, the calories in their food. So a Big Mac, your favourite is 510 calories, and people may not have known that 10 years ago.
No, I didn't. That's interesting. I mean, but are you? Who's driving that, though? I mean, is it? I always wonder how you change a menu, whether you have people who come up and order something that's not on it, or they say they don't like it, in which case how does that? Who's driving the change?
So we have, everything starts with the customer. So we continually talk to customers, listen to customers, and we have a team of chefs that work behind the scene from across our supply chain base that come together on a monthly basis to look at food trends up to 3 years out. So whether that's spice that's being involved in the menu. So we've launched a wraps range that now has more spice. You can either choose grilled or crispy, and customers are driving that change in our menu. My job is to make sure that we pick the ones that will win within the McDonald's environment, and obviously we can do that at the speed of McDonald's because no customer wants to come for a slow experience in McDonald's. So you have to disrupt at the right pace, and also have the confidence to hold stuff back. So we actually held up the £600 million investment that we started last year because I needed to reduce our toast time for our fresh bread by 17 seconds, because that was the pinch point within the whole production in our kitchen was the toasting time. So to get the toasters to toast quicker was what held up. So bringing stuff at the right time is also important.
Do you feel that you are, a loved brand, a tolerated brand? Do people say, have you had to sort of fight a rearguard action, in causes like obesity and what have you, that you're sort of the bad guy or in the modern food world?
I think McDonald's always polarises opinions. I've worked for McDonald's for nearly 20 years, and it's never a dull conversation, whether it's at a dinner party, in a pub, or out socially. For me, our role within the areas that you talked about is important. I'm a dad myself of 2 young boys. And for us, customers don't want nanny state. They, as you said earlier, you want to be able to enjoy the burgers that you want when you come to McDonald's. However, you want to understand what goes into your food, the nutritional content, and the information is critical. So over 10 years ago, we've put nutritional information within our restaurant environment. We now have it at the point of sale. We have it on our kiosks. And I'm very proud of what we do and how we do it. And things like free-range eggs and 100% British and Irish beef that goes into our burgers is important that customers understand that.
But I always get the feeling it's slightly forced upon you, and you'd actually like to serve a full-fat burger.
I think if you go back 15 years ago, it's all about taste and choice. And we probably spent too much time in the early 2000s trying to hunker down in East Finchley where our head office is and not look to change. And I think what we've learned over the last 10 years, and we've enjoyed 42 consecutive quarters of guest count and sales growth, is keep changing with pace of customers and keep opening up what goes into a great McDonald's burger.
And you're operating at a time now where healthy, sustainable eating are prevalent, big forces. Do you feel like the wind's at your back? And how have you used the technology? I mean, a little bit of the role of technology in the business in terms of ordering and sourcing and what have you.
I mean, technology is prevalent throughout our business, but I think there's a key aspect, 2 key aspects. I think first is engagement with the customer. So for example, we launched an app recently, and that app's very much transformed our customer base. So they can log on, they can change very easily, they can see the menus for the coming weeks, they can choose what they want to order or not want to order. It gives cooking instructions and it has a feedback loop in it. So that's been the first good round. We see whoever uses the app has far more engagement with the brand, stays with us longer, has higher NPS scores, etc. I think the second key aspect is big data, and this is an oft overused term. It's something that very much the grocers have pioneered with things like Nectar Card, but I think we've been lucky to take it to the next level as a lot of online brands. So every single time we send out a recipe, we send out and ask customers for feedback, and we get in, I think, something like 250,000 data points a month about those recipes from our customers. So for us, the number one thing is taking that data, iterating it through a lot of algorithms, identifying what are the key things that people like and don't like and the key different taste profiles, and then adapting our menu accordingly. And I think that's the joy of being an online company versus perhaps a bricks and mortar provider of food, is we can change that with that kind of speed of action. If something goes on the menu and it bombs, and it still happens, it happens less than it used to, that can be off the menu going forward. And continually, I think we must be now at the point where we're getting towards having one of the most sophisticated profiles of the nation's taste that anyone has, because all the grocers know what you're buying. They know you're buying chicken or you're buying green beans, but they don't know the end purpose. And we know precisely which recipes you're cooking and what your feedback is.
That sounds like you got the sort of digital bit quite embedded in the whole thing. Is there a chance, isn't there a danger with established players that let's get ourselves an app. Everyone's got an app. We need an app, and you just get one, and that's all. It's a sort of gimmickry. Just to sort of paste it on.
Yeah, it's a great point. We have an app in test at the moment in an area around North London, and we're monitoring it. And the customers that have been using it are rating it over 85% positive experience.
What does the McDonald's app do?
So basically, it does a number of things that we've already talked about. One is provide information and give people the power of when they want to order, how they want to browse the menu. Everyone's time poor at the moment, and they want us to change the way in which they can use McDonald's in terms of service. The other thing it will be able to do is to be able to save your favourites. So if you're a regular customer, say at breakfast once a week, you'll be able to come in and order your favourite and check in and not have to go through the standard service experience. Then also we'll be able to have the customer loyalty. So we'll be able to talk to our customers in a way that we've never done before. So, but to your point, we've been testing the app for over a year. I've been holding it back because it's not quite good enough yet that it will make sure that every customer gets an improved experience. And for a brand like us, when you are serving 3.7 million people a day, I can't put something out there that's going to slow down our service. So if you're coming through our drive-through and you're sitting behind someone that's trying to use a new app and get used to it, it needs to be as easy as possible because no customer wants their experience to be harder. How
are things like Deliveroo, Just Eat, those kind of the delivery services, or Uber Eats is now in here? I just don't see people. I might be wrong, but I can't see someone saying, "Oh, I'll get Uber to deliver to McDonald's." Maybe I'm wrong. Is that a challenge to you?
Yeah, it's something we're looking at because if you think about some of the brands that have been mentioned previously, Netflix and stuff didn't exist 10 years ago, and Amazon. We have to take that market very seriously. So we were pioneers of the drive-through. We have 70% of our business is takeaway, whether that's on the high streets on which we operate or through our drive-through lanes. So we are closely watching and understanding the customer use of those brands that do have home delivery. And already people are using local taxi firms to collect on Friday nights through our drive-through. So we need to take it very seriously.
Yeah. Does that impact on you at all, Ian?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, if you look at our proposition, we're a subscription business, and that requires a certain kind of continuity to your life in terms of knowing you're going to be at home certain nights a week to eat. So we're actually tracking quite closely and recently launched a trial with Uber Eats. So you can order one meal kits on demand, and that's precisely servicing the people who have a busier lifestyle, aren't going to necessarily be at home every week and know exactly when they're going to want to cook, but do want to have a lot of the thought taken out of what to buy and not have the wastage in the fridge at the end of the meal. So we just ship one meal, you get it out, one recipe card, you can cook it all up, and it's delivered to you within 30 minutes.
That's very interesting. So someone's calling up to get a takeaway of a meal they have to cook for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you think about it, it's actually significantly quicker than getting a takeaway because it's shipped straight away. Whereas normally you have to wait for them to be cooked, then shipped. And then if you cook it at home, so it doesn't actually sort of change that much the total time to table.
It goes back to what's the customer benefit and making sure you have the confidence to also watch the market. And the hardest position for me is when you've got a lot of ideas that are coming your way is to hold back on certain things and have the confidence to watch, and then maybe be a fast follower and execute better than other people.
That's interesting, because other people have said that to me when I've interviewed them. Tim Cook and people like that at Apple, just saying, be a fast follower. You don't have to be first in everything. Is that, sounds like good advice, particularly if you're an incumbent?
Well, if you think about kiosks in McDonald's, we're not the first brand or retailer to use technology for the ordering part of the experience. I was obsessive of watching people like John Lewis and M&S and how they've used technology in their environments. But we're the first to market within our own eating out sector to use technology in that way. So you don't have to rush, and we learnt a lot from the airlines and from the supermarkets as well. So to be a fast follower in your sector can be as disruptive as being first to market.
Very interesting. And finally, Theresa May this morning said she wants to help small businesses and to grow into big businesses. She wants patient capital to be there when they need. What are the big challenges that you've come across as you've grown, and what do you wish you knew then, what you know now?
This is a hell of a lot of challenges, but I'm not sure how many are actually regulatory based or governmentally based. If I actually compare myself to our colleagues internationally, I think we're very lucky in the UK that we have a very good environment for business. The biggest challenges I wish I'd confronted is hiring better and hiring earlier. I think there's definitely a belief in the startup community you can do a lot with smart young people. I think as you move from startup to scale up, you need to bring in expertise. And you need to bring in the right departments at the right time at the right level of seniority. And that's something we've been doing over the last 6-9 months, and it's really starting to bear fruit now.
Okay, so you need a bit of grey hair in the organisation as well.
Yeah, tinging grey.
Just tinges, salt and pepper look. Okay. Well, we wish you all the very best. Thank you very much for coming in today. And Paul, thanks very much indeed. Ian and Paul from HelloFresh and McDonald's. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.